the reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
Margaret, when we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
Just trying to gauge for people planning ahead here.
That's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent calling out CBS host and woman who can't control her own facial expressions, Margaret Brennan, for peddling more liberal fear-mongering disguised as economic journalism. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and it looks like CBS's Margaret Brennan thought she could go toe-to-toe with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and ended up face first in a policy blender. Because when you try to corner a career investor with fear-mongering fluff, you're not just going to lose, you're going to get humiliated on national television. Here she is smugly trying to land a hit, while Bessent calmly reminds her what actual economic leadership looks like.
Where are you anticipating price increases?
Well, thus far, we wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. That the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right. But you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers.
Retailers are warning of price hikes. Well, when you go back to school shopping, things are going to cost more.
But Margaret, some are and some aren't. Home Depot and Amazon said they're not. And
Home Depot and Amazon aren't where you go for your back to school shopping. When you buy your jeans, when you buy your crayons, when you buy all those things that parents are going to be
I don't know about you, but I do it online at Amazon. You know, this isn't an advertisement for Amazon. And guess where most of the Halloween costumes in America get bought? At Home Depot. So, that's just not right. There's a wide aperture here. Different companies are doing different things. They are making decisions based on their customers, what they think they're able to pass along to their customers, what they want to do to keep their customers. And I was in the investment business for 35 years, Margaret, and I will tell you, earnings calls, they have to give the worst case scenario, because if they haven't and something bad happens, then they'll be sued.
It's not always the worst case. It's the most probable case.
No. They have to give the worst case.
You know, if you're going to come after someone like Bessent, you better have more than a Karl Rove op-ed and Google stats whispered in your earpiece. I mean, Brennan tried to corner him on inflation and tariffs, and Bessent calmly embarrassed her by pointing out how she incorrectly made similar doomsday predictions in the past. And he's absolutely right. Inflation has dropped to its lowest in 4 years. Personal incomes are up, the PCE index slowed, and establishment media's scary predictions all turn out to be wrong once again. I mean, it's almost like these people would rather go down swinging with bad data than admit Trump's policies are working. Here's Brennan doubling down with smug faces and combative posturing as Bessent continues to politely crush every talking point she's got.
How close of a brush with default could this be, given how massive some of the Senate changes are expected to be to the other parts of the bill?
Well, first of all, Margaret, I will say the United States of America is never going to default. That is never going to happen. We are on the warning track, and we will never hit the wall.
You have more wiggle room if they don't deliver this by mid-July? I mean, how hard of a date is this?
We don't give out the X date because we use that to move the bill forward.
Sometimes deadlines help force action, as you know, particularly in this town, sir. That's why I'm asking. You know that the Speaker of the House estimates this is going to add $4 to $5 trillion over the next 10 years, and there's that debt limit increase.
Well, again, Margaret, that's CBO scoring.
That's the Speaker of the House.
No.
He said it last Sunday on this program.
He said that's the CBO scoring.
He said that sounds right.
Let me tell you what's not included in there, what can't be scored. So we're taking in substantial tariff income right now. So their estimates that could be another $2 trillion. That we are pushing through savings. So my estimate is that could be up to another $100 billion a year. So over the 10-year window, that could be $1 trillion. President has a prescription drug plan with the pharmaceutical companies that could substantially push down costs for prescription drugs, and that could be another $1 trillion. So there's the 4.
You know, one of the few good things about Brennan is how painfully transparent she is. You can tell that she thought acting condescending would cover for the fact that she had no idea what she was talking about. And that clearly wasn't the case. I mean, she tossed out this dramatic scenario about Trump's bill stalling and America hitting the debt ceiling by July, and Bessent just shut it down cold. So instead of admitting defeat with any of this, Brennan just quotes Jamie Dimon like it's gospel and repeats the same Peterson Institute garbage that's been wrong every step of the way. She's completely ignoring that CPI is at 2.3%, GDP is up, and the 10-year Treasury sitting around 4.2%, which is hardly crisis territory. I mean, with dishonest reporting like this, it's no wonder people aren't buying into Democrat and establishment media lies anymore.
That you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error, plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
This is new CNN polling.
Yes.
How is that, when we look for trends, how is that trending with other data that you're pulling in?
Yeah, if it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan.
Also in the CNN data, it does show that Republicans are gaining ground in an area that is key relating to all of this, which is when it comes to the middle class.
Yeah. Historically speaking, which is the party of the middle class has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022 where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away.
You know, things are getting bad for Democrats when even the political hacks on CNN have to bend over mid-segment just to process the numbers. I mean, this wasn't some fringe poll. It was CNN's own data showing Republicans holding a 12-point lead on who has the better economic plan, which has got to sting for these pretend journalists. Because after months of recession talk, wild markets, and endless fear-mongering over Trump's tariffs, Democrats are still getting crushed. And it's not just the economy. Democrats are losing the middle class, which used to be their bread and butter. That's a 23-point collapse from 1989 to today, which means that the party that used to sell itself as the voice of working people just got overtaken by President Trump and the GOP. But let me know what you think. Is the media's ruined credibility and economic fear-mongering actually helping Trump more than it's hurting him? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching.